One day, some Pharisees and Herodians tried to trick Jesus. They said, "Teacher, we know that you're a man of integrity. We know that you're not swayed by people because you pay no attention to who they are. You teach the ways of God in accordance with the truth." Here comes their big question. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Now, Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me?" he asked. "Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought the coin, and Jesus asked, "Whose image is this? And whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Jesus said, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." They were amazed at him. Why? Get this, because Jesus submitted to earthly authority. You must submit to authority, except when that authority commands you to sin. 1 Peter 2:13 says, "Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as supreme authority or to the governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right." Number one, believers are to submit to those in authority. Wayne A. Grudem, in his commentary on 1 Peter, says this: "God has established such lines of authority for the orderly function of human life, and it both pleases and honors him when we subject ourselves to them." He goes on to say, "Nor should we think that the need for authority is only due to sin, for there is authority among sinless angels, the redeemed in heaven, and even the members of the Trinity for all eternity." 1 Peter 2:13, "Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake and for our sake." Now, if you think you have trouble submitting to our top leaders in government, you should have lived in Peter's time. The Roman emperor was Nero, who reigned from 54 to 68. Under Nero, guess what? Peter would be persecuted and later sentenced to death. The point? God expects us to submit to earthly authorities even when they are not believers, and even when they are not morally upright, even when they are crazy. We are to submit to governors. By the way, Pilate crucified Jesus. He was a governor. Godless Felix tried and kept Paul in prison for 2 years. He was a governor. Peter said governors were sent by God to punish wrongdoers and to commend right doers. Peter never believed one should take justice into their own hands, and God will deal with governments who fail to punish wrongdoers. You must submit to authority, except when that authority commands you to sin. I've said that many times, and I really believe it. 1 Peter 2:5, "For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people. Do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as God's slaves. Show proper," here it is, "respect to everyone. Love the family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor." So number two, I'm going to say believers show respect and honor to all that are in authority. God, home, those at home, show respect to those at church, and even for people in government. Now you might say, "I'll respect them when they earn my respect." The Bible does not say that. We have all worked close under leaders that we've had trouble respecting. We respect and honor them simply because God tells us to. They would not be in power unless God had allowed it. You must submit to authority, again, except when that authority commands you to sin. Leanne Meadows teaches hearing impaired children. Not long ago, she had a big conflict at school. Here's her story. She said this: "I was a part of a team that worked with deaf children in a public school. And as with all teams, there's usually one person that doesn't want to pull their weight. We had such a person. And over time, tension kept building and building. And every day, I would get frustrated. It seemed like our principal knew what was going on. Our supervisor knew what was going on. But nobody would do anything." She says, "I went in. But I went in with the wrong attitude. And because of my frustration, I just blew up. What resulted was a meeting with my supervising teacher, my principal, my assistant principal concerning my role as a teacher instead of this person's role with her children. Even though I was doing my job, I was the one that blew up. I was the one who had the wrong attitude. She says, when I finally came to my senses about the whole thing, I began to really pray for the people that were over me in authority. At first, my attitude in prayer wasn't right either. I was praying, God, you get them. And if you can't, get through to them, just go ahead and get them. A friend of mine said to me, Leanne, it sounds to me like you're a hearer, not a doer of the word. I read that chapter, she said, in James and thought, that's true. I knew my role as a Christian in the workplace, that I should respect authority, she said, but I had gone a completely different way. I didn't do what the Bible said, and instead of approaching them to talk about the problem, I went in with guns blazing and attacked my authority. She said, eventually God taught me how to pray differently. He taught me to pray for them by trying to see their side of the story. And as a result, God changed them? No, God changed me. She said, circumstances haven't changed at work. Decisions are made every day that I still don't agree with, but my response has changed. That was a lesson God needed to teach me about authority, how I should respond to it. So I'm asking you, again, for the fourth time, you must submit to authority except when that authority commands you to sin. Jesus submitted to authority, and you must submit to authority if you want